Welcome to The Making Of, a podcast series dedicated to the alumni of Swansea University. In each episode, we attempt to see how people's time and experiences on campus at the university have shaped who they are, both in the public and private sphere. My name's Andy Bush, and I graduated from the University of Swansea back in 1998, and I'm always fascinated by what draws people to a particular university and the lasting effect it has on their lives. This week on the podcast, we have an amazing success story for you, a story that we hope can inspire and inform you if you're about to chart your own course through the education system. We're delighted to be joined by Trish Kinane, OBE. She studied English and drama at Swansea University and was part of the class of 74. Trish has gone on to have an incredibly successful career as a TV exec in America, working across some massive shows like America's Got Talent and American Idol. Trish, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I'm saying hi from Los Angeles.
Amazing. You're there. We can see you. You're in front of the Stars and Stripes, a banner behind you, drinking a coffee. How are things in Los Angeles as we speak?
Well, in terms of the weather, it's very hot, so very pleasant. In terms of world relations, it's chaos. Very interesting.
Oh, and what's it like to be at the centre of all of that as a someone from the United Kingdom over there whilst all this stuff's going on?
It's sort of bewildering, every day something new happens and it supersedes what happened the day before. I mean, I think this is a really unique time in history. And I know you studied American studies and you were in America for a year or so, but there's been nothing like this. And I now have 3 small grandchildren, and I'm very keen that they're aware of their British heritage. My kids are married to Americans, but my grandkids are very well aware that they're British as well as American. So my 5-year-old said to me this weekend, actually, so Grandma said, does that mean I'm Americish? I said, well, I think it probably does, actually. It's a good word. So I've got Americish grandchildren.
And what do people think of your accent over there? Because you have a fantastic British voice, so.
In America, everybody loves the British accent. And they have no idea where you're from. I mean, whether you're from the north of England or Scotland or southern England. I mean, I'm actually Welsh. I was born in Swansea, but I just don't have a Welsh accent. I never have had. I don't know why. But maybe we left, I suppose, when I was about my teenage years. So I've been out of Swansea for a long time. But no, the Americans love the accent. It's definitely an advantage.
And then do you think about Britain, the United Kingdom a lot? Do you get homesick at all?
Yes. When I was I was president of entertainment at Fremantle Media in Los Angeles, and I've been here for about 12 years now. I came for 3 weeks, not knowing what was going to happen, and then I never went back. But because it's a pretty full-on job, very busy, 24/7. So I hadn't really been back to the UK at all. I would go back,
Oh, wow.
get off a plane, have a meeting with Simon Cowell, get back on a plane. So I never really was home, what I regard as home in the UK. So since I've retired a couple of years ago, I've been back a few times and I miss it. I really didn't realize how much I missed it. And how much it's my home and how familiar everything is there and how strange things relatively are here in America.
Well, let's rewind right back to the start then, Trish. Tell us about how you came to be at Swansea University in the first place, your journey from kind of birth right the way through to setting foot onto campus.
Well, I was born in Swansea and a lot of my relatives are still in Swansea, but that wasn't the reason why I chose Swansea. I was very lucky in that I always knew I wanted to work in television. I don't quite know how I knew it, but it was, pretty. Television wasn't a very mature industry when I was growing up in the 60s and early 70s. And it was just a fascinating medium for me. And I knew I wanted to do it. So I looked for a course that would help me do that. And there were very few universities at the time that did a joint honours in English and drama. So there were lots of universities did English, but I think in a rather snobby way, a lot of universities thought drama was the poor relation. And I didn't. For me, it was that combination which was perfect. And also that they were equal. So it was a joint honours degree. It wasn't English and you can just play around with drama a bit. It needed to be equal for me. So Swansea, in a very forward-thinking way, was one of the only universities doing that. And so that's how I ended up there.
And then in terms of education up to university, were you always into learning, or were you quite goal-driven on what you wanted to do? What were you like in your kind of formative educational years before the university?
I was a bit swotty, I think. I always wanted to be, near the top of the class. But I always liked having fun as well. And I think, one of the things is that people like, yeah, you've got to enjoy your life. So you've got to try and find something that you're passionate about, that you really want to do, something that's going to nourish you. And I think even at school, I knew the subjects with maths useless. I'm very lucky I scraped an O level in maths. But, English, history, all of those other things I really loved and I enjoyed doing. I went to school in Cardiff. So, I was in Wales till after university, pretty much, one way or another.
If no one's experienced the Mumbles Mile before, maybe someone's listening to this in a different part of the world, can you try and explain what the Mumbles Mile is to the uninitiated?
Well, I don't know what it's like now, but it was so from the end of sort of proper Swansea, if you like, there was the Mumbles Head, and then you turn right and you go up towards all the beautiful bays, Langland, and all the other amazing places. And then there was that amazing street full of very interesting shops, great food, sort of cute little gift shops with interesting galleries and art stuff. Swansea is a very nourishing place, and I think the university takes full advantage of that. It nourishes you both in the academic ambitions of the university, but also the place itself. You've got I think some of the most beautiful scenery coastline in the whole world, not just in Britain, but anywhere. I've traveled a lot, and that Gower coast is stunning. And I think if Swansea had better weather, it would be like the south of France. Beautiful hotels would grow out. Look at Rossili, that beach, amazing. And as a student, to be able to just go down to Langland Bay with my books, yeah, you can't better that. It was fantastic. But also, Swansea had a good city life as well. So it was a real combination of, quality of life, beautiful countryside, beautiful coastline, but also the city was fun. The bars and the restaurants and the young student life was really, really fun.
So obviously your uni during the 70s, there was no Zoom or Skype or video chat, etc. What was your communication like with your family when you were at university then?
Well, when you go to university, you're trying to break from your family. So I saw them in holidays, the odd phone call, and then I'd go home for the holidays. But it was more about learning to deal with other people you'd never met before, establishing relationships, working out people you liked and didn't like, how to handle all of that. I mean, it was such a growing up experience. I mean, it is for anyone who goes to university. But I think the Swansea campus, because it's quite small, but big enough, but quite small. It was a place where you could grow in confidence.
And I mean, I've seen some, a couple of interviews with you before about Swansea, and you particularly love the Taliesin.
Yes, well, the Taliesin's a proper theatre. It's amazing to have that facility, and many universities didn't have anything like that. So again, for my particular interest in English and drama, to have that on your doorstep and also be the home of Dylan Thomas and, all that wonderful history. So that was, it was an incredible privilege. I was in a number of plays at the Taliesin, acting,
Wow.
and producing, and, the drama course was, it was pretty ambitious. We had some really great lecturers, and I think for them it was new and fun as well. And we took full advantage of the Taliesin. I presume it's still there. Is it still?
I think it is looking better than ever. It's an
Yeah.
iconic venue, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was a real privilege to have a proper theatre to play in.
And then in terms of, studies and lectures and so on, did you enjoy going to lectures and going to tutorials and being in the library and those kind of things on campus?
Yeah, I did. I liked all of it, actually. I was sort of determined, given that it was the right course for me, and not everybody lucks out and getting the right course straight away. Sometimes you need to change or you're not quite sure what your path is. But because I was so lucky in knowing what my path was, for me, it wasn't, oh my God, I got to do a lecture. It was like, oh, great. This is exciting. It's interesting. Those lecturers made it interesting. And it was sort of very experimental as well. I'm not sure, you'd have to look at the history of the university, but it may have been the first year of that course or even
Oh, wow.
the second year of that course. They hadn't really done it for very long. So they were finding their way as well. And you were able to have quite a bit of input into what you're interested in. So if you're interested in Chekhov or something, okay, let's do a bit of Chekhov, So, and they were very experimental in the way we put on performances. You could do things in the round or, you could say, oh, let's have, the actors in the audience, or, any of those student-y type ideas that you think no one's ever thought of before. But no, I enjoyed all of that. So going to lectures wasn't a chore. It was, yeah, I'm just lucky it was the right course.
And that's a very good point that you make as well, actually, that, I think some people think that that's you done and dusted. You make your choice and then that's it for the rest of your life. But there are a lot of options when you get into the university system, and they're brilliant at helping you, change things around if it isn't the course for you.
Yeah, I would, part of my advice to anyone going to any university, and Swansea as well, is if it isn't right, go and talk to your tutors, go and talk to people, because this is your life, and you can't spend 3 years doing something you don't enjoy. There's plenty of time for that later on, if you end up in the wrong job. But I'm sure they would be helpful, because, it's in their interest to produce happy, successful students as well. So if it is the wrong choice, address it early and change it.
Yeah, great advice. And you make a very good point there as well. I mean, I wish someone had come to me at Swansea University and just told me, how busy, once you get to a certain part of your life and work properly kicks in, you don't get this freedom of
No.
time to sit and enjoy and record and sit and enjoy and explore different options at any point in your future, do you? It's almost like you need to make sure that you're enjoying that time.
Well, you need to do what you can. I mean, some people, they just don't know. Like my son still doesn't really know, but I'm constantly grateful for how lucky I am to have known that. My brother and I used to sit and watch TV together, because in those days, families gathered around a TV. People weren't watching online or doing their own thing in separate rooms. And it was a very joint experience, very sort of family with my brother, not necessarily my mum and dad, but we would watch TV together. My brother writes scripts, and I found, even now, like I produced American Idol in America. I don't have it in Britain because they have the X Factor there, but it's that sort of show, talent singing show. But one of the reasons that was so successful was that joint family viewing. It started on air 6 months after 9/11 in America. So the whole of America was like, what the hell's just happened? Everyone was feeling nervous and insecure and unhappy. And I think part of the reason American Idol was so successful is that families sat around the TV together. They watched it together, and it was a positive show about talented young people. And by the voting, they felt they had a stake in helping those contestants become successful. So that sort of joint endeavor, which I experienced very early on, which partly accounted for the degree I took at Swansea, was very important and still is important, I think.
So what was it like being on the crest of just such a huge cultural phenomena like those shows were, American Idol and America's Got Talent? Because, you look back now at those things, and it was, like, I know there are so many other distractions for people now, where sometimes even when people are watching the TV, they're not properly watching the TV, they're on their phones, etc. But I think you're right in saying that it was a good old-fashioned sit around the TV, captivated the entire family. And that's a real rarity now, those things, aren't they?
Yeah, it is pretty rare. And in those days, it was just the beginning of the technology that allowed people at home to vote. Because up until then, I did a show at Granada TV when I was working in TV in Manchester. And I did a show called The Fame Game, which was a talent show. And we tried to get voting then. And the ambulance system collapsed in the local area because the people ringing in, they couldn't cope with it. So, but the technology, the telephonic technology had got good enough. So by the time American Idol came on, everyone was wanting to have joint viewing, but they also felt they could partake in it. So that sort of, I'm voting for them. Who are you voting for? Oh, let's see how they do. It was a conversation starter, and you had to be communicating with other people. And, America's Got Talent similarly. But those have been on a long time now, those shows. And I was lucky enough to be at the birth of the format industry, which, these Idol, Got Talent, X Factor, Traitors now, all these shows are formats. And in the early days, nobody really knew what a format was. And the fact that you could put it on in lots of different countries and you make it feel local, but it's still that format. And I was right at the beginning of that. So I was, again, lucky to be there at that time, but it interested me. I was curious about it. It was something new. And I just, I think partly because of that very collaborative experience with my lecturers at Swansea. I was able to just go with it, say, hey, this is interesting. Well, let's give it a go. Let's experiment. Let's take a risk.
And it's a very scary time, that bit where you step out of the kind of comfort, and it's over very quickly of the, you know, the course at university, at Swansea University, and you're in the big wide world. What was that bit like for you then? We graduated and you're like, now what?
It was terrible because I couldn't get a job. And I knew that I wanted to work in TV. And it's like, yeah, right, everybody wants to work in TV. Well, you know, you're going to give you a job straight out of university. And I was like, but I got English and drama. Don't care. And I didn't want to be a secretary and go that route because I just thought I might get stuck there, you know, doing that. So I wanted to do something a bit more creative. So after I left university, I traveled around the world for a couple of months. Just I like traveling, and I thought, let's broaden my horizons and have a look round. And I found out that South African television was just starting. They didn't have TV before. And there were quite a lot of Brits from the BBC who'd gone over to start up South African TV. So I got on a boat. I went to South Africa and I got a job there. And
Wow.
by doing that, because it was the early days of TV, you could sort of do a bit of everything. You know, it wasn't like this is the job and that's all you can do. And the other thing about TV in the UK was it was very heavily unionized. And unless you're a member of the union, you couldn't get a job. And how do you become a member of the union without a job? So I did a year in South Africa. By doing that, I was able to come back to Britain and say, right, I've done this, I've done that. And then I got a job at Granada Television. But that first moment of coming out of university was actually one of the worst times. I was like, oh, what happens if I can't do what I know I really want to do? It was scary and unsettling. And I'm sure everybody feels that. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you worry about your dreams being wrecked, etc. But you've got to just go for it. I mean, I think that's just what I'm getting from what you're saying there, Trish, is that you've got to kind of chase your dreams a little bit.
Yeah, and take some risks. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen when I got on the boat to South Africa. Like, oh, well, let's see what happens. You know, take a risk. It was a bit of a risk me coming to America, you know, but it was a risk worth taking. I thought, why not? It's an adventure. Let's see, you know. So I think you got to be prepared to do that. I do think the environment's different though nowadays. It's, you know, harder for people to get jobs. It's harder for people to earn money than it was in my day. So I think you know, people graduating have got a slightly different set of challenges. But I think overall, if you have the opportunity to know what you want and be focused, I think one of my big things is I'm very, very focused. If I know I want it, I try and do everything to make it happen.
I mean, and I think that's, you know, definitely comes through from talking to you that you're, even from those early stages of your first year at Swansea Uni, you knew what you wanted to do and you kind of set this trajectory, you know, and how does it work if there's someone as driven and as direct as you, Trish, comes into contact with someone who seems to be as driven and as direct as Simon Cowell? How does that kind of work out?
Well, I think one of the other things, probably in any job, but certainly in TV, is you've got to know how to work with people. And I think you've got to have empathy. And if people don't want to work with you, no matter what your job is, it makes your day-to-day life very, very difficult. No, I just think in whatever job you're in, being able to manage other people, work with other people, and have a good time working. You know, we're all working. We all want the same thing. We all want to be successful. Simon wanted, you know, America's Got Talent to be successful. Katy Perry on American Idol was determined that she was going to be a judge that made an impression. So I think you just have to be diplomatic, empathetic. But on the other hand, I was the producer. And if I wanted to do something, there was a very good reason for it. And I think you just have to explain it. And that's why we're doing it this way. And what's your reason for not wanting to do it that way? I have to say, I've never had a serious disagreement with any of the on-screen talent that I've worked with. They all want to be good. You know, they all want to come over as well. They want their fans to love them. And they want to produce good shows because it reflects well on them. And if I'm like a conduit to make them look good, they're going to be fine about that.
And then what was your experience of being, like I say, it's incredible, huge shows that you were part of, American Idol, America's Got Talent. Are you, for people at home listening now, were you in the control room with hundreds of different TVs, or were you behind the scenes with headphones on? What was your kind of setup when a program was being recorded?
Oh, so the two different things. So America's Got Talent, I was the executive producer. So I was like one step removed from the day-to-day. I brought in a fantastically talented producer from the UK, actually. I brought her over to America to be the day-to-day producer on it. And I was the executive producer. So, I went to all the recordings, but I wasn't the one panicking when something went wrong at that moment, and I would liaise with the networks and, work out the budgets, all of that sort of slightly one step removed. American Idol, I was the showrunner as well as the executive producer. So every single decision came through me, everything. The color of the set, the lighting, the choice of judges. I took when I first went over the judges, actually, I cast them. It was Jennifer Lopez, Harry Connick, and Keith Urban. And then it came off Fox and went to ABC, and I cast Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan's a big country singer out here. And
But how do you, you say you cast them? Do you have them in mind thinking these guys would be perfect for this? Or is it a question of their agents get in touch and say, we'd like to be considered? Or how does it work?
all the agents wanted all of their people to be considered. So that's why my diplomacy had to come in about how to say no. There's no way in hell I'm having them without offending anyone. But actually, the Swansea degree helped, because I worked with actors there. I was an actor there, and I worked. It was there during my course that I realized I was never going to be a good enough actor. I was all right, but I was never going to be a good enough actor. So I decided during my university course that I was going to be in production, not in front of the camera. But in terms of the casting of them, like American Idol, there are 3 judges. You can't have 3 alphas. You can't have 3 people who want to be the boss. So you have to decide which one is going to be the lead, and then they've got to complement each other. And you just have to think through, like Harry Connick, for example. I think if he hadn't been a musician and a TV personality, he would have been a teacher. He loved part knowledge. He's very, very knowledgeable about music and construction of music, and he likes to teach. So he was my sort of teacher judge on that panel. Jennifer was the empathetic, one, and Keith is just a really, really nice guy who brought the country music angle. So there's lots of elements that go into the decision. And then, one of the other interesting things when COVID hit, we were in the middle of producing American Idol. I'm about to go into the live shows, and we couldn't. Everybody had to stay at home, but the network still wanted the show on air. So it was like, oh, okay, now what do we do? So we had to work out how to get satellite links to 45 different locations all around America. The contestants, who were often 18, 19-year-old kids, we couldn't send a lighting director or anything to their house, so their mum had to do it, or their dad. We could see the dog in the background. And I was sitting here in this study with that flag behind me with a bank of monitors with 45 little Ryan Seacrest, the host, and the judges who were at their different homes. It was very exciting, I have to say, and also very creative. We learned a lot from doing that. So it was a big problem, but actually out of it came some really positive things.
And forgive me if I'm incorrect on this, but were you involved in the Word?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was. So when I left Granada Television, Channel 4 approached me and asked me to executive produce this new show, which was The Word, which, as you know, was a late night sort of music entertainment show. And it was live. I love live television. American Idol's live, America's Got Talent's live. There's a real buzz from that. And it was one of the best times. I mean, Charlie Parsons is a genius. He created it. And Wahid Ali, who's now Lord Ali, was one of the owners of 24-Hour Productions, and Bob Geldof was just getting involved in it at that time. But the show was crazy. I mean, it was live. You didn't know what was going to happen. We got a thing at one point from security saying, we think there's someone with a gun wandering around on the set. So I don't think there was, but there might have been. It was just mad. But it was, I loved doing that show. And, people still talk about The Word, and it had Nirvana's first TV appearance. It was groundbreaking in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a big music fan, obviously, with my job. Most of the bands that I love today, I saw for the first time on the Word, whether it was Oasis's first ever TV performance was on the Word, Nirvana as well, L7, the legendary L7 performance on the Word, which I'm sure you won't forget. But no, absolutely amazing. What an incredible program to be involved with.
It was. I was involved in the first series of it because then I was pregnant with twins. So I managed to make the first show and the pilot, and then I had gave birth to the twins, and then I was back like the next week, crazy enough, on the set. But after that, I just decided I can't handle the word two tiny babies. Charlie, who I love, but Charlie is a creative genius who is like often creative geniuses are, and Bob Geldof. I can't do all of that and two babies. So I decided to move on and start my own company.
And so, if you were to be teleported back to the campus at Swansea right now, then Trish from LA, where would you be drawn to? Where would you go and have a look at, or go and walk around again, just for old times?
So, well, I think I'd like to go around the halls at Singleton, and I just like to. Maybe I should next time I go, just go onto the campus and see where the library is, see what's changed. See what the canteen. I spent a lot of time in the canteen. Like you do, sitting, chatting, drinking coffee. Oh, I've got a lecture now, better go. It was a happy time, and the location is just unmatched. It really is fantastic. And I think, people look at universities, some campuses are out of town, some campuses are in the center of a city. And Swansea, I think, has the benefit of both worlds. You've got that. I don't know whether it's still there, but some students had a farm down a lane off Sketty towards the Gower, and it was quite a place, that farm. I think there were about 7 of them shared it, and it was always like a happening party place. So that farm, I'd go and see if that was still there. But to have that combination of out of town relaxation, beautiful countryside, lovely coastline with the city life, that's pretty special. Not many universities have that.
And final question then, Trish, what's your message to people who are considering going to Swansea University? If they're in that kind of process of trying to decide, what would you say?
Oh, just go for it. Go for it. The place is stunning. Choose the right course or change if you made the wrong decision. But do your research. I don't know what the courses are these days. I don't know quite how the arts are, or humanities, or science. I know it's very forward thinking in terms of its scientific degrees, but just do your research, bear in mind what a great place it is, and just try and enjoy it, because it's a very special time in your life, and only when you look back on it in retrospect do you appreciate how great it was.
Well, it's been fantastic to chat to you. What a great advocate you are for Swansea University. Trish Kinane, OBE, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun.